Mia adjusted her apron, taking a deep breath as she stepped into the upscale restaurant. The ambiance was one of luxury, a polished marble floor, ambient lighting, and an air of exclusivity that felt almost suffocating. She could hear the hum of conversations laced with laughter and clinking glasses, a melody of wealth that often made her skin crawl. As she navigated through the tightly packed tables draped in crisp white linens, she felt the weight of her uniform, a stark reminder of her place in this lavish world. That evening, a table of high-profile clients arrived, drawing attention like moths to a flame. Whispers rippled through the restaurant as Mia's supervisor, Evelyn, fussed over the group. They were well-dressed, their designer outfits a testament to their status. But it wasn't just their appearance that caught Mia's attention. It was the presence of a man seated among them, the notorious Viktor Petrov, a name that sent chills through the community. Mia had heard stories about Viktor. The Bratva bus was an enigma, a figure cloaked in danger and intrigue. As she approached the table, her heart raced, not out of fear, but out of an insatiable curiosity. She had to remind herself to stay focused. This was her job, and she needed to earn every penny. Approaching the group, her voice steady, she greeted them. "Good evening. May I take your order?" Victor looked up, his steely gaze piercing through her. A taut silence hung in the air for a moment, tension bubbling beneath the surface. "Aren't you a bit lost here?" he said, a smirk dancing on his lips. His words dripped with casual disdain, as if he were amused by her presence in a world that felt alien to her. Mia's cheeks flushed with embarrassment, but she held her ground. "I'm here to serve, sir. What would you like to order?" she replied, forcing the words past the lump in her throat. The others at the table chuckled, more at her discomfort than at anything else. She felt the sting of judgment, the weight of their gazes on her. "Why don't you tell me what's good? You might be able to recommend something," Victor continued, his tone laced with a mock sincerity that only further fueled her resolve. She could feel the insidious dance of power at play, but she refused to be intimidated. "For starters, the truffle fries are highly recommended," she said, "and the steak, cooked to your liking, is one of the best dishes we offer." She hesitated momentarily, but the curiosity gnawing at her jolted her forward. "And if I may ask, what brings you to this restaurant?" Victor's eyes narrowed, an unreadable expression crossing his face. "Just enjoying the finer things in life, like anyone else." His reply was curt, but Mia could sense the layers beneath his words. There was a flicker of something. Was it vulnerability? Or was it merely a mask for the darkness lurking within? She nodded and turned to take their orders, feeling the tension in the air simmer. As she walked away, she overheard snippets of conversation, plans whispered behind hushed voices, names that sent chills down her spine. The danger surrounding Victor was palpable, clinging to him like a second skin. Later, as she served the table their drinks, she caught a glimpse of Victor's demeanor. He was charming, disarming the others with sheer charisma, but there was a coldness that lingered just beneath the surface. It was a stark contrast to the warmth she had always sought to bring to her interactions. Each laugh he shared felt like a mask hiding a man burdened by secrets. "Is that your accent? It sounds different," he remarked casually as she poured his drink, the edge of his voice sending a shiver down her spine. It was an innocent question, yet it carried a weight that made her stomach twist. She was proud of her heritage, proud of the roots that shaped her into who she was today. But in moments like these, it felt like a target. "Yeah, I guess so," Mia replied, her voice steady but soft. "I grew up in a different part of the city." The words felt heavy on her tongue, laden with untold stories of struggle and perseverance. She could sense the others' amusement, the way they feasted on her discomfort. It was a familiar feeling, one she had grown used to in the upper echelons of society. I find accents fascinating. They tell a story, Victor said, his eyes fixed on hers, tracing the line of her jaw with a gaze that was both intense and unsettling. I wouldn't have pegged you as a waitress. You carry yourself like you belong at a different table. Maybe I just like the view from here, she shot back, surprising herself. There was an electricity in the air, a connection that was hard to ignore even as she stood firm. Victor looked intrigued, a glimmer of respect flickering in his dark eyes. The evening dragged on, and as she passed by tables filled with laughter and indulgence, Mia couldn't shake off the lingering curiosity about the man who sat at that infamous table. He was dangerous. Everyone knew it. But there was a charisma about him that piqued her interest, drawing her closer despite the caution ringing in her head. Just as she began to forget the weight of the encounter, she overheard a fragment of conversation from a shadowy corner of the restaurant. "His connections are as dangerous as they are powerful," a man whispered, his tone low enough that only Mia, passing nearby, could catch the words. Her heart raced as she realized the extent of the world swirling around Victor. It was a realm filled with risks she had never fathomed, a dangerous game where every player had something at stake. As she stepped into the kitchen to process the evening's events, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that her life was about to change in ways she couldn't begin to imagine. The allure of danger had drawn her in, igniting a fire inside her that refused to be extinguished. As she glanced back toward the dining area, she locked eyes with Victor once more, a silent promise hanging in the air. This encounter was just the beginning, and she was determined to uncover the truth behind the man who had effortlessly turned her world upside down. Mia took a moment to compose herself, her heart pounding as she glanced back at the table. Victor's eyes bore into her, an intense scrutiny that made her skin prickle. She felt the urge to retreat, to disappear behind the safety of the kitchen doors. Yet something within her resisted the instinct to shy away. Instead, she steeled her resolve, reminding herself of the countless times she had faced disdain and judgment in her life. With a deep breath, she returned to the table, ready to deliver their drinks. "Here you go," she said, placing the glasses down gently, her gaze lingering on Victor. "Is there anything else I can get for you?" "Your accent, it's quite distinct," he remarked, leaning back in his chair, an amused smile playing on his lips. "It's charming, really, though not what I expected in a place like this." The way he spoke felt like both a compliment and an insult, tangled up in his casual arrogance. Mia felt her cheeks flush again, but this time with anger. "I assure you, sir, my accent is as genuine as the food you're about to enjoy," she replied, her voice steady, though a fire burned behind her words. "And this place is about celebrating diversity, not diminishing it." Victor's expression shifted slightly, a flicker of surprise mingling with intrigue. "Feisty, are we? I like that." His smirk widened, but there was a newfound respect in his eyes, a crack in the veneer of his cold demeanor. "Just doing my job," Mia shot back, feeling emboldened. "Would you like to hear about our dessert specials, or are you more interested in making fun of my accent?" The laughter from the rest of the table faded as they observed the unexpected exchange. Victor's companions looked between him and Mia, their reactions ranging from amusement to disbelief. He leaned forward slightly, his eyes narrowing, studying her as if she were a puzzle to be solved. "You have a spirit to you. I appreciate that. It's rare in this line of work." "Thank you, but I'm afraid I'm not here to entertain you, sir," Mia replied, her voice firm. Victor chuckled softly, the sound low and almost resonant. "You underestimate the power of a good conversation. Tell me, do you often challenge your customers so boldly?" "Only the ones who think they can walk all over me," she retorted, her heart racing as she realized how close they were standing. She could smell the faint hint of his cologne, a mix of cedarwood and something deeper and darker that hinted at danger. His lips curled into a smile, revealing a flash of something that resembled admiration. "I think we might see more of each other, Mia." Before she could respond, a sudden commotion erupted from the entrance. A group of well-dressed men stormed in, their presence commanding attention. The air thickened with tension as they approached Victor's table, casting dark looks in his direction. Mia felt the shift in energy, the unsettling undertone that accompanied their arrival. "Victor," one of the newcomers said, his voice a low growl, "we need to talk." Victor's demeanor shifted instantly, the warmth and charm fading, replaced by an icy glare. "Not here," he replied, his tone brokering no argument. "I'm busy." Mia watched as the dynamic changed. The air became charged, and she felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. She had heard stories of Victor's power in the criminal underworld, and now, standing mere feet away, she could see the reality of his world crashing into her own. "Your business can wait, Petrov. This is important," the man insisted, glancing briefly at Mia with a mix of disdain and curiosity. Victor's jaw tightened, and for a moment she caught a glimpse of the man behind the Mafia boss, the vulnerability, the weight of responsibility. "Just a moment," he said, his voice low, almost dangerous. Mia took a step back, her instincts urging her to retreat. She was a waitress, not a part of this world. Yet, as she turned away, she felt Victor's gaze on her, heavy and intense. It stirred something within her, a mix of defiance and intrigue. The men began to converse in hushed tones, their voices laced with urgency, but Mia couldn't catch their words. She found herself sneaking glances at Victor. He was composed, but she could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes flickered with irritation. Despite the chaos of the moment, Mia felt a strange pull toward him. She should have felt scared or repulsed, but instead she was drawn in by the complexity of his character. There was a darkness that intrigued her, a depth beyond the surface, and she found herself wanting to understand it. As she returned to the bar to refill her serving tray, thoughts swirled in her mind. How could someone so powerful, so feared, also have moments of vulnerability? She couldn't shake the feeling that Victor was more than just a mafia boss. There was a story behind those cold blue eyes, a history that shaped him. Once she had replenished her tray, she took a deep breath, steeling herself for another round at Victor's table. The energy had shifted, but she felt emboldened by their earlier exchange. She approached with determination, ready to face whatever the evening had in store for her. "Back for more?" Victor asked, his eyes glinting with a mixture of amusement and curiosity. "Just making sure you're satisfied," she replied, her voice steady despite the tumult of emotions brewing within her. He leaned back in his chair, a slow smile spreading across his face. "I admire your resilience, Mia. Not many would dare to stand up to me." "Maybe not, but I'm not here to be intimidated," she countered, meeting his gaze head-on. Victor's expression softened slightly, and for the briefest moment, she wondered if she had caught a glimpse of the man behind the mask. "Good. I think we might get along better than I anticipated." As she turned away, her heart raced. There was an undeniable spark between them, one that felt electric and dangerous. Little did she know, this encounter was only the beginning of a complex relationship that would unravel further in the days to come. Mia could feel the tension swirling around her like a thick fog as she stepped away from Victor's table, her heart still racing. The abrupt intrusion had shattered the moment, but as she walked back toward the kitchen, she couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had transpired. The way Victor's gaze had lingered on her, the mix of amusement and challenge in his voice, it had awakened something deep within her that she hadn't anticipated. The kitchen was a cacophony of clattering dishes and sizzling pans, but her thoughts were miles away. She had to focus, to remind herself of the job at hand, yet Victor's presence loomed large in her mind. She couldn't ignore the way he had looked at her, as if she were more than just a waitress. Was he merely toying with her, or was there something genuine beneath that cold exterior? Moments passed, and Mia found herself stealing glances toward the dining room. Victor was still at his table, now in deep conversation with his companions. They leaned in close, animatedly gesturing, their faces etched with concern. She caught snippets of their conversation, words that sounded harsh and clipped, but the context eluded her. What kind of life did he lead? The door swung open again, and the click of heels echoed as Evelyn, her manager, entered the kitchen. "Mia, get back out there. Table 5 needs their appetizers," she instructed, her tone brisk and clipped. Mia nodded, but her mind was still wrapped around Victor. She grabbed the plates, steeling herself for another encounter, and stepped back into the dining area. As she approached the table, she could feel Victor's eyes on her, a weight that made her pulse quicken. "Here are your appetizers," she said, placing the dishes down on the table. "I hope you enjoy." Victor's gaze held hers a moment longer, a challenge embedded in his stare. "I'm sure we will," he replied, his voice smooth, yet layered with something more profound. "But tell me, Mia, do you ever indulge in the food you serve?" Caught off guard, she hesitated. "I don't usually have the time," she replied, forcing a lightness into her tone, though the question lingered in the air. Victor's curiosity unnerved her. It was as if he was searching for a weakness, a way to penetrate the walls she had built. "But you must have a favorite dish," he pressed, leaning forward, his elbows resting on the table, an intensity radiating from him. She paused, weighing her words carefully. "I suppose I enjoy the seafood pasta. It reminds me of home." The moment hung thick between them, and to her shock, Victor's expression softened ever so slightly. "Home can be a powerful motivator," he said quietly, almost to himself. "Where is home for you, Mia?" The question struck a chord within her. "New Orleans," she confessed, feeling a strange sense of vulnerability rising in her chest. "It's vibrant and alive, filled with music and culture. It's a place where people celebrate their roots." "Interesting," Victor replied, his gaze unwavering. "I've always been fascinated by that city. The dialect, the food, the spirit." Mia's heart raced at this unexpected connection. "You know the dialect?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, surprise coloring her words. "Fluently," he replied, a hint of pride in his tone. "My mother spoke it. I grew up with those sounds, the rhythm of the language." Her breath caught in her throat. A crack appeared in the facade of the Mafia boss, revealing a glimpse of the man beneath. "Your mother?" she echoed, intrigued. Victor's expression darkened for a moment, a flicker of something painful crossing his features. "She was a strong woman, fiercely protective of her family. She taught me the importance of loyalty." Mia's heart sank. "And what about your father?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. Victor's jaw tightened, and for a fleeting moment she saw the shadows of a past that haunted him. "Let's just say he wasn't around much," he said, his tone clipped. Mia sensed she had treaded into dangerous territory. "I didn't mean to pry," she said softly, feeling a rush of empathy for him. "It's just, your accent caught me off guard." "People often underestimate the power of their origins," he replied, his eyes locking onto hers. "You understand that well, don't you?" "Yes," she admitted, feeling a connection forming. "I've had to fight for my voice in a world that often wants to silence it." Victor nodded, a flicker of respect crossing his face. "That's admirable." Before she could respond, the tension in the air shifted again. the atmosphere thickening with unspoken words. The men at the table exchanged glances, their previous concern returning. "Victor, we really need to discuss this," one of the men urged, his voice low and urgent. Victor's gaze hardened once more, and Mia felt the familiar coldness returning. "In a moment," he replied, sharply, dismissing them with a wave of his hand. Mia's heart sank as she recognized the shift in his demeanor. She was just an employee, a fleeting distraction in the tumult of his world. "I should get back to work," she said, forcing a smile, though it felt heavy on her lips. "Wait," Victor said, his voice low and commanding. "You're different, Mia. I see that. Don't forget it." His words hung between them, a promise laced with danger. As she turned to leave, she couldn't shake the feeling that their paths were entwined in ways she had yet to understand. She felt the weight of his gaze follow her, an invisible thread pulling her back despite the chaos that surrounded them. As she slipped back into the kitchen, her mind raced with questions. Who was Viktor Petrov really? What lay behind the walls he had built around himself? And why did she feel drawn to him, despite the danger that cloaked him like a dark shadow? The answers eluded her, but one thing was clear. She was no longer just a waitress. She had unwittingly stepped into a world of secrets, and she was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. As Mia stood at the table, the weight of Victor's gaze felt like a heavy cloak draped over her shoulders. She forced herself to breathe, to focus on the task at hand, even as he seemed to unravel her thoughts with an intensity that was both exhilarating and terrifying. "I enjoy the seafood pasta. It reminds me of home," she had said, revealing a piece of herself that she typically kept guarded. "Stay here," a voice commanded, jolting her from her thoughts. It was Victor, standing suddenly, his expression hardening. He caught her gaze, and for a fleeting moment, she saw a flicker of concern. "Don't move." The authority in his voice sent a pulse of fear through her, but she found it impossible to comply. Her instincts screamed for her to know more, to understand the unfolding drama. The newcomers approached Victor's table, their presence dominating the space. Mia's heart raced as she strained to hear snippets of their conversation. Harsh, clipped tones filled the air, each word laced with menace. "We're not here to play games, Victor," one of the men said, a smirk curling his lips. "You've crossed the line, and now you need to pay." "Is that a threat?" Victor replied, his voice low but steady. The calmness in his tone only heightened her anxiety. She watched as he leaned back in his chair, an image of confidence that belied the tension radiating from his body. "You think you can just waltz in here and dictate terms?" Mia felt a mix of fear and fascination wash over her. She was no longer just an observer. She was witnessing a power struggle that could tip at any moment. The realization that Victor's life was entangled with real threats sent her mind racing. What had she gotten herself into? As the confrontation escalated, Mia felt a pull deep within her. The world she had known, filled with mundane routines and simple joys, was slipping away. Victor was in danger, and despite the churning fear in her stomach, she couldn't just stand by. She had to do something, anything to help him. Before she could second-guess herself, she stepped forward, her heart pounding. "Is everything all right?" she asked, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. The men turned to her, surprise flickering across their faces. She could feel Victor's gaze on her, a mixture of gratitude and warning. "Stay out of this, sweetheart," one of the men scoffed, dismissing her with a wave of his hand. But there was something in Victor's expression that urged her to remain. She was no longer just a waitress. She was a participant in this dangerous game. "Actually, I think she deserves to know what's happening," Victor interjected, his tone firm. Mia, these gentlemen are here to discuss some business matters, and I trust you to keep it professional. His words ignited a fire within her. She could see the tension between them, the way the men shifted, their disdain cloaked in false politeness. You're threatening him because he's a good businessman, and you're not here for a friendly conversation, Mia shot back, surprising herself with her boldness. And I don't think you have the right to intimidate anyone in this restaurant. A moment of silence stretched between them, the tension almost palpable. Victor's expression shifted, a mix of pride and something deeper, perhaps gratitude? Mia could feel the stakes rising. She was standing on the edge of a precipice, and the ground beneath her was anything but stable. The men exchanged glances, their amusement fading as they assessed her. "You've got guts, I'll give you that," the leader finally said, a smirk creeping back onto his face. "But guts don't protect you from the consequences of your boss's choices." "Enough," Victor commanded, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "You think you can shake me? You're mistaken." There was a fierce determination in his eyes, a fire that ignited the air around them. He turned to Mia, his gaze softening. "Go back to the kitchen. I need to handle this." "No," she replied, shaking her head defiantly. "If you're in danger, I'm not leaving you." The weight of her words hung in the air, and for a moment, the world fell silent. Victor's jaw tightened, and she could see the internal battle he was waging. "Mia, you don't know what you're asking for." "Maybe I don't," she admitted, her voice steady. "But I do know you're not alone in this. I can help." The tension crackled with a new energy, as if the very universe was bearing witness to this moment. Victor's expression softened, a hint of vulnerability breaking through his hardened facade. "You shouldn't be involved in my world," he said quietly, but there was no anger in his voice, just a profound understanding of the risks entailed. "Then let me in," she urged, a plea wrapped in determination. "I want to understand. If you're going to protect your territory, let me stand by your side." The men from the rival gang watched the exchange, their expressions shifting from amusement to annoyance. Victor straightened, the weight of his choices pressing down on him. "If you're going to do this, you need to trust me," he replied, his voice lowering to a gravelly whisper. "I trust you," Mia said, her heart racing as she took a step closer, closing the distance that had always felt insurmountable. "Show me your world." In that moment, something shifted between them, a bond forged in the fires of confrontation and burgeoning trust. With the threat looming just outside their bubble, Mia felt a clarity she hadn't anticipated. She could no longer remain a passive observer. She had to take a stand, not just for Victor, but for herself. The stakes had risen, and she was ready to face whatever came next. Just then, the tension snapped as the rival gang leader spoke again, a sneer twisting his lips. "You think you're brave, but bravery doesn't save you from what's about to come." Victor's gaze hardened, and Mia felt the air crackle with anticipation. "Let them come," he said, a fierce glint in his eyes. "I'll protect what's mine." As the confrontation loomed, Mia braced herself for the storm ahead, knowing that whatever happened next would change her life forever. Mia stood, heart racing, as the tension in the air thickened. The men surrounding Victor were no longer just intimidating figures. They were a palpable threat that loomed over her world. She could see Victor's jaw tightening, muscles coiling beneath his tailored suit. Every instinct screamed at her to step back, to retreat behind the safety of the kitchen. But she couldn't. Something inside her pushed her forward, a fierce determination ignited by the fear of losing him. "Who do you think you are?" one of the men taunted, his eyes narrowing at Mia. "You think you can just step into this world and play hero?" Mia held her ground, refusing to be intimidated. "I'm not playing games," she said, her voice steady, surprising even herself. I'm just concerned for the safety of everyone here." The man laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the upscale restaurant. "Safety? In this world, sweetheart, safety is an illusion." He gestured dismissively, but Victor's cold stare shifted to Mia, a flash of something, perhaps admiration, flaring in his eyes. "Enough of this," Victor said, his voice low and commanding. "If you have business with me, then speak. But if you're here to threaten my people, you've made a grave mistake." Mia felt the weight of his words, the shift in the dynamic. Victor was no longer merely an enigmatic figure. He was a protector, asserting his power. Still, the sense of danger lingered, a sharp blade hovering perilously close. The tension escalated, and Mia could feel her heart pounding in her ears. She caught a glimpse of Victor's hand subtly flexing, readying himself for a confrontation. The air crackled with unspoken threats. The rival gang members exchanged glances, and for a moment the room fell silent, all eyes drawn to the impending clash. "What do you think this is, Victor? A game of chess?" one of the men sneered. "You've made a move that puts everyone at risk. The Bratva doesn't take kindly to betrayals." Betrayal. The word ricocheted through Mia's mind, igniting a flurry of questions. What had Victor done? Who had crossed him? The knowledge that he was in deeper than she had ever imagined sent a chill down her spine. She had been naive to think she could separate her life from the world he inhabited. "Is that what this is about?" Victor asked, his voice a mixture of calm and fury. "You think you can intimidate me into submission? It doesn't work like that." Mia could sense a shift, the tension rising like a coiled spring ready to snap. She glanced at Victor, whose expression revealed nothing but a steely resolve. Yet, beneath it all, she could sense the vulnerability he often hid, a man balancing on the edge of a precipice. "Let's cut to the chase," the leader of the rival group said, stepping closer to Victor, his face inches from his. "You owe a debt. You're not above the rules. Pay up, or we'll take what's rightfully ours." Mia's breath caught in her throat. Debt? What kind of debt could tie Victor to these men? Victor leaned forward, his demeanor unyielding. "If you think I'm going to bow to your threats, you're mistaken. I've built my empire on respect, not fear. You'll get nothing from me." The rival gang leader's smirk faltered, and a dangerous glint appeared in his eye. "This is far from over, Petrov. You're playing with fire, and you'll get burned." As the tension reached its peak, Mia felt a rush of adrenaline. This was not just a confrontation, it was an ultimatum. In that moment, she realized that her choice to stand by Victor was not just about a fleeting attraction. It was about loyalty and the bond that had formed between them, however tenuous. "Victor," she said, her voice cutting through the charged atmosphere, "what if we negotiate? There has to be a way to resolve this without violence." The men turned to her, surprise flickering in their expressions. Victor's gaze shifted to her, a mixture of appreciation and worry etched on his face. "Mia, this is not your fight," he said, his tone firm yet soft. But Mia couldn't back down now. "Maybe it's not just your fight either," she shot back, emboldened by the moment. "You're not alone in this. You have people who care about you. Let's find a way to settle this without anyone getting hurt." For a heartbeat, the room fell into silence again, the tension palpable. Victor rebarded her with an intensity that made her heart race. "You shouldn't get involved," he warned, but there was a flicker of something else in his eyes, a hint of admiration for her bravery. Before he could respond, one of the rival gang members stepped forward, his expression hardening. "You think you can just waltz in and play peacemaker? This isn't some game. We don't negotiate with waitresses." Mia felt a surge of anger at the disrespect. I'm not just a waitress. I'm someone who understands that violence only leads to more violence. You want power? Show some strength by finding a different way. Victor's eyes widened in surprise, and Mia sensed the shift in the atmosphere. The other men exchanged glances, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. Interesting, the leader said slowly, contemplating Mia's words. Perhaps you're right, but you should know that in our world, trust is a rare commodity. Victor's expression darkened, the tension unspooling further. There's a traitor in my ranks, and it runs deeper than you think, he admitted, his voice low. The revelation hung heavy in the air, and Mia felt her stomach twist in knots. Who? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Before he could answer, a familiar figure appeared in the doorway, one of Victor's trusted associates. The atmosphere shifted again, a cold dread creeping in as the stranger approached. Victor, we need to talk, the man said, urgency lacing his voice. Mia's heart sank, sensing the unfolding betrayal. She caught Victor's eye, and in that fleeting connection, she understood the gravity of the situation. Choices would have to be made, and their relationship would be tested in ways she never anticipated. Whatever it is, it can wait, Victor replied, tension tightening his features. No, it can't. It's about the debt. We've been compromised, the man insisted, panic edging his tone. Mia felt her breath hitch, the weight of the world settling heavily on her shoulders. In this moment, she realized they were standing at a crossroads. Every decision could lead them down a path of danger or a chance at survival. Victor looked at Mia, and she saw the flicker of determination in his eyes. We need to figure this out, together, he said, his voice steady. As the rival gang members watched, the stakes rose higher. The line between safety and chaos blurred, and Mia knew that their connection would be tested in ways neither of them could predict. With a resolve hardening in her heart, she nodded. I'm with you no matter what. In that moment, she understood that loyalty was forged not just in words, but in actions, actions that could change the course of their fates forever. The air in the upscale restaurant felt charged with a volatile mix of tension and raw emotion as Mia stepped closer to Victor. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the chaos around them faded into an indistinct blur. The rival gang members were still present, their postures aggressive, but Mia's focus was solely on Victor. She could see the storm brewing within him, a tempest of unspoken fears and burdens that he usually kept hidden behind a veneer of control. Mia, this isn't your fight, Victor insisted again, but there was a softness in his voice that hadn't been there before. It was almost as if he were pleading with her to understand the depth of danger they faced. I know it's not, she responded, her voice steady, but I can't just stand by and watch. This matters to me because you matter to me. The confession hung in the air, a fragile thread connecting their hearts amidst the chaos. Victor's expression shifted, surprise mingling with something deeper, an acknowledgement of the bond that had formed between them. In that lingering moment, Mia could see the man behind the Mafia boss, the vulnerability he rarely allowed anyone to witness. He was not just a figure cloaked in power and intimidation. He was a man who had fought against the tides of his past, who carried burdens that threatened to crush him under their weight. Do you really think you can save me? He asked, a hint of bitterness lacing his tone. I'm not the man you think I am, Mia. I'm tangled in webs far more dangerous than you realize. But Mia stood her ground, emboldened by her feelings. Maybe I don't need to save you. Maybe we can save each other. Her words seemed to hang between them, charged with a promise of something more profound. It was a bold statement, yet it resonated with the truth she felt deep in her bones. The rival gang leader scoffed, breaking the moment. Enough of this sentimental nonsense, he spat. You're playing a game you can't win, Victor. He took a step forward, his men forming a wall of muscle behind him. "You owe a debt, and we will collect." Victor's jaw tightened, his gaze unwavering as the atmosphere thickened with unspoken threats. "You think intimidation works on me? I've built my empire on strength and cunning, not fear. You'll find I'm not as easy to control as you assume." Mia could feel the tension escalating, her heart racing in rhythm with the impending confrontation. Victor was fierce, unyielding, but she sensed a flicker of uncertainty within him. "We can negotiate, Victor," she urged, desperation creeping into her voice. "There must be another way." Victor's eyes softened momentarily, a conflict raging within. "You don't understand the stakes, Mia. This isn't just about me," he replied, his voice low, almost a whisper. "You're in danger by association. I won't allow that." "I can handle myself," she replied defiantly, her resolve strengthening. "If I'm going to be part of your world, then I deserve to understand it. I want to stand with you, not behind you." Her words ignited something in Victor he couldn't readily suppress. The vulnerability he had shared moments ago clashed with the protective instincts that had always governed him. "You don't know what you're asking for," he murmured, his expression a mix of anguish and admiration. "Maybe I do," she challenged, stepping closer, their bodies almost touching. The connection between them pulsed with unspoken tension, the air thick with possibilities. "I want to know who you are, beyond the power and the danger. I want to know the real Viktor Petrov." The rival leader scoffed again, impatience in his tone. "You're wasting your time, girl. He'll sacrifice you before he ever lets you close. It's not worth it." But Victor's gaze remained locked on Mia, a flicker of something more than just resolve igniting in his dark eyes. "You have no idea what I do for those I care about," he said, his voice low and intense. "I would walk through fire." Mia's heart raced as the weight of his admission settled between them. In that moment, the chaos around them faded, and the world shrank to just the two of them. He was a man standing at the edge of his empire, a fortress of solitude and burden, and she was a beacon of light pushing through the shadows. "Then let's face it together," she said, her voice unwavering. "We can't let fear dictate our lives. We owe it to ourselves to confront whatever's coming." Victor's gaze darkened, the tension palpable as he contemplated her words. The rival gang members exchanged glances, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. The moment felt fragile, a delicate balance hanging in the air. "Enough of this," the rival leader barked, stepping forward again, his patience waning. "Last chance, Victor. Pay the debt or we take what's ours." But Mia felt something shift inside Victor. The flicker of fear transformed into determination. "You'll get nothing from me," he declared, his voice powerful and resolute. "You think you can threaten me? You don't know the lengths I'll go to protect what's mine." The rival leader's expression soured, and he stepped back, a newfound caution in his demeanor. "This isn't over, Petrov. We'll see you soon." As the rival gang began to retreat, Mia sensed the danger still lingered, but she also felt a new strength within Victor. He glanced at her, a spark of something unspoken passing between them, a promise of loyalty, of defiance against the odds. "Are you all right?" he asked, his tone softening as the tension began to dissipate. "I am now," she replied, her voice steady and sincere. "But we need to talk. We can't let this divide us." Victor nodded, the weight of the moment settling heavily on his shoulders. "You're right. We need to figure this out, together." The connection between them deepened, the air electric with possibilities. As they stood amidst the remnants of confrontation, Mia felt a rush of hope. They were no longer just two souls caught in a dangerous game. They were partners, facing the storm ahead. "Let's get out of here," he said, his tone shifting to a more personal note. "I want to show you something." Mia's heart skipped a beat as she followed him through the restaurant, the shadows of danger still looming, but she was ready to face whatever came next. They stepped into the night, and for the first time, Mia felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps they could forge a future together, navigating the complexities of their worlds side by side. The tension in the upscale restaurant was palpable, a living entity that pressed against Mia as she stood resolutely before Victor. The rival gang members were still looming, their presence a dark shadow that threatened to engulf her newfound resolve. But beneath the weight of that threat, something had shifted between her and Victor, a connection that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. She could sense the storm within him, battling against the chaos outside, and it ignited a fire within her that she hadn't known existed. "Victor," she said softly, her voice cutting through the noise, "I don't want to just know the man who commands fear. I want to know the man who feels, the man who has dreams and fears just like anyone else." Her words hung in the air, a challenge and a plea wrapped in one. A flicker of vulnerability crossed Victor's face, and for a brief moment, the Mafia boss mask slipped. "You have no idea what you're asking for," he murmured, his tone heavy with the weight of his past. "I've lost everything before. I'm not sure I can let someone in again." Mia's heart ached at his admission. "Then we can start with small steps. You're not alone anymore, Victor. You don't have to carry this burden by yourself." Her sincerity pierced through the layers of armor he had built around himself, and the tension shifted, becoming something more intimate. Victor's gaze softened, and in that moment, the chaos around them faded into a distant hum. "I've spent my life pushing people away. It's easier that way," he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "But with you, it's different. It scares me." "Good," Mia replied, her eyes locking onto his with fierce determination. "Fear means there's something worth fighting for, and I'm willing to fight for us, for whatever this is." She gestured between them, her heart racing as she spoke the words she had kept buried for too long. Before Victor could respond, the rival gang leader stepped forward, his contempt palpable. "Enough of this sentimental nonsense," he sneered. "You think you can change him? He's a monster, and he'll always choose his empire over you." The gang members shifted, their menacing postures tightening around them like a noose. Victor's expression hardened, the protective instinct surging to the forefront. "I will not let you talk about her that way," he growled, his voice low and dangerous. "You've underestimated me for the last time." The air crackled with tension as the two men faced off, but Mia could see the flicker of uncertainty in Victor's eyes. He was fighting a battle not just for her, but for the man he wanted to become. "Let's end this," she said, stepping closer to Victor, grounding him with her presence. "Together." The declaration hung in the air, a promise that bound them in a way that transcended the danger surrounding them. Their fingers brushed, and a jolt of electricity coursed through her, igniting the connection they shared. Victor took a deep breath, the weight of his choices pressing down on him. "You're right," he said, his voice steady, "but it won't be easy. I have enemies, and they won't stop until they get what they want." He glanced at the rival gang leader, his jaw set in determination. "But I refuse to let them take anything from me again." With a fierce nod, Mia met his gaze, her heart swelling with a mixture of courage and fear. "Then we face them together. I'm not backing down." The resolve in her voice was unwavering, and Victor felt something shift within him, an acceptance of the partnership they were forging amidst the chaos. As the rival leader's men advanced, Victor stepped protectively in front of Mia, his presence a shield against the impending threat. "You'll regret underestimating us," he declared, his voice booming with authority. "This is not just my fight anymore, it's ours." The rival gang leader scoffed, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "You think you can change the game? You're just a pawn in this world, Victor." But Victor's unwavering gaze silenced him. "Then let's play a different game." The tension escalated, and in a swift motion, Victor lunged forward, catching the rival leader off guard. The confrontation ignited into chaos, but Mia stood firm, her heart racing not just from fear, but from the realization that they were in this together. She could see Victor's strength and vulnerability intertwined, a man fighting not just for power, but for the chance to reclaim his humanity. As the conflict unfolded, Mia felt a surge of adrenaline. She was no longer just a bystander. She was a part of Victor's world, and she would not let fear dictate their fate. The fight erupted around them, but she remained focused on Victor, her heart echoing with every beat. In the aftermath, as the dust settled and the rival gang members retreated, Victor turned to Mia, breathless and wide-eyed. "You stood by me," he said, a mixture of awe and gratitude in his voice. "I didn't expect that." "Neither did I," she admitted, her heart swelling with pride. "But I believe in us, Victor. We can build something new from this chaos." "Can we really?" he asked, uncertainty lacing his words. "I've never allowed anyone to get this close before." Mia stepped forward, her voice steady. "We can. But it's not just about facing external threats. It's about facing our fears, together." She reached for his hand, intertwining her fingers with his. "I want to know you, all of you, the man behind the boss." Victor's expression softened, and for the first time she saw a glimmer of hope in his dark eyes. "Then let's start fresh," he said, his voice resolute. "I'll show you my world, the real one, but know this, it won't be easy." "I'm ready," she replied, her heart racing with the possibilities that lay ahead. Together, they stepped into the uncertain future, hand in hand, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. As they walked out of the restaurant, the weight of their shared burdens felt lighter, a testament to the bond they had forged. The city sprawled before them, a landscape of both danger and opportunity, and for the first time, Mia felt a sense of belonging in this chaotic world. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together," Victor promised, his grip on her hand firm and reassuring. "I won't let you go." Mia smiled, the warmth of his words wrapping around her like a protective cloak. "And I won't let you push me away." Their journey had only just begun, but they were no longer alone, and that was enough to kindle a spark of hope for the future. As they stepped into the night, the shadows of their past began to fade, replaced by the light of new possibilities. Together, they would navigate the complexities of their intertwined lives, ready to confront the challenges ahead with courage and love.